Hey, what's good, everyone? Twisted here with Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about our good old friend and pal, Archangel Uriel. Now, for those who are not necessarily aware, granted, even though it's plastered right on the front part of the YouTube channel, as the introductory video and all that, Archangel Uriel happens to be the patron archangel of this particular channel, and that is something that we discuss in kind of like more so of the personal relationship of like as we were starting to begin this project, how we came about, seeing Uriel as more of a significant part of our spiritual journey and all of that. Now, after, some time, what have you, we covered the personal aspect in that discussion, and by we, I mean Devi and I, but, after some time, I was thinking, what, it may serve for us to go ahead and discuss the actual, alright, so who generally is Archangel Uriel, and what are some means and manners that you could go ahead and interact with them yourself, or what are some reasons for it? So pretty much that's what I wanted to go ahead and do as a follow-up, a sequel to that discussion right there. This one I'm doing it myself as opposed to Devi and I speaking on it. But I did, prior to going ahead and talking about it right now, actually go ahead and confer with Devi herself, as well as also Archangel Uriel, as well as, collating it with my own personal experience to go ahead and provide a list of, what exactly, Uriel would be, good for calling upon them for, or asking for assistance, praying, invoking, whatever means and methods that you happen to utilize. But before getting into that itself, I kind of want to go ahead and speak on, one of the things that caught my eye that kind of was a signal to me. You could say coincidence, you could say happenstance, synchronicity, whatever works for you. That was all right, probably about time I go ahead and do this sort of thing. And it happened to be when I was going through, the web and looking at different PDFs and all that sort of thing, and trying to find stuff about various subject matter. I cannot remember specifically what, but oh yes, I remember now. It was about in the Judaic and the Kabbalistic perspective, the female aspect of Yahweh being Shekinah, right? And I was looking for a PDF of that because I had read it, several times beforehand. And granted, I do have my own copy, but I was looking, just on the internet because convenience, right? At that moment in time. And when I finally came upon it using a search engine, I happened to notice that the URL for it happened to be Uriel.com, and I had not noticed it previously because I was more so going for a search engine to the site, link where you could download the file, and just did that and then, exit out and then, go about my day. But in actually going ahead and, observing that, I'm like, all right, let's go to Uriel.com and see what it's all about. So that is the particular URL chosen by John F. Nash, the writer of that particular article, that particular blurb about, the Shekinah, right? But, at the bottom of the homepage for that, he happened to go ahead and write about the reason why he went ahead and titled it Uriel.com, and I have a couple of things that, it kind of made the gears in my head churn a little bit, so I want to go ahead and speak on that a little more so after I read a couple of sentences from that, not the whole thing, just like a paragraph or two. When this website was created in 1997, the objective was to have a short URL address that people could easily memorize and key in. A search of available addresses turned up Uriel.com as a suitable choice. Uriel is one of the 4 archangels mentioned in Christian, Hebrew, Kabbalistic, and Islamic traditions. The word Uriel literally means fire of God, a light of God, or son of God. And by son, the big fiery ball in the sky, not necessarily, the son of God as in, the offspring, the child of God, what have you. But yes, 2 takeaways that I, went ahead and, started thinking about after, coming upon this was, one, that, you could say this experience, of him going ahead and coming upon this, right, was a means of, like, divination, right? You could say it's synchronicity or maybe even coincidence or what have you, but I see it as like a means of divination or synchronicity for, author John F. Nash, which is, actually in line with, Archangel Uriel's, like, area of expertise when it comes to different things that, people doing magical practices or, say from religious background and praying or what have you, go ahead and wish to commune with Uriel about. The second thing that I happened to go ahead and notice is something I really hadn't noticed before was that, he was talking about trying to find a suitable URL address for the site, right? Now, I did not notice before that, the shortened term URL, which refers to, whatever link, what have you, is pretty much without any vowels, the consonants of the name Uriel. And, to that, I was like, is there something to it, potentially? Is there something, like, within, like, being able to find information, so quickly, so rapidly, how it is, all within our fingertips, essentially, within the World Wide Web, as created by Tim Berners-Lee. He's only initially created the World Wide Web. And, the nature of the internet as a whole, kind of being like a reflection, I guess you could say an intuitive musing, that delves into the subconscious or the superconscious, that's an impression, that is made, it was made by Berners-Lee, kind of like, I'm probably guessing, not necessarily consciously, right? In terms of like, hey, look, you're diving deep into the psyche, using the Jungian psychology sort of, perspective. But, that's, he touched on something. He had some sort of divine inspiration, pretty much, to go ahead and put it like that. And was he was touching on something beyond himself and brought it into fruition. And that it may have something to do with Archangel Uriel. Now, granted, obviously, not everything is centered around Abrahamic faith or Judeo-Christian lore or anything like that, but the archetypal spirit of Uriel, which, from my understanding, happens to be a bit more mercurial, of Mercury. You could say kind of like, from my own findings, from Devi's own findings, that, there's a relation between Uriel and, Hermes of the Greco-Roman pantheon, or even Thoth from the Egyptian, and all of that, that they all share a sort of role, a sort of, yes, once again, archetype. But, in terms of the Uriel.com link, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll provide a link in the description, but what have you. When it comes to, say, like, after that bit of a thought that I had, and kind of like, reflecting upon it, after, coming upon this, and that being one of the signifiers to go ahead and actually discuss Uriel once again, I went ahead and referenced a few texts that, I usually utilize for, hey, look, when I'm thinking of, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do some magical stuff or what have you, and I speak about it several times already in previous, recorded talks on the channel, what have you, that being, angelic sigils, keys, and calls by Ben Woodcroft, Damien Echoes, Angels and Archangels, and several other things as well. But yes, I looked at that as like, okay, I'll copy paste, all that sort of thing, and then I'll edit it and I'll amend it, not to make like an overly long list of things, but just to be like, all right, you know what, this is a concise, what you can do to call upon Uriel for, and all of that sort of thing, by whichever means and manners that you happen to go ahead and wish to do so. So pretty much, right, like what we have here is, okay, let me just go ahead and, all right, there we go, had to scroll down a little bit. So pretty much, right, the usages here, once again, from the sources that I usually use, along with my own personal experience, and also conferring with Devi, as well as Uriel themselves. So, performing divination, as was spoken about before. Charging any of your divinatory tools, whether you use tarot cards, or dice, or dominoes, or runes, I Ching, pendulum, the internet itself, which Damien Echoes has a modern day bibliomancy sort of technique in one of his books. It's either High Magic or Angels and Archangels. I believe it's the latter, but it's either in one of those two. Whether you're going ahead and, I guess, in any way, shape, or form. I don't need to go ahead and do a bit extra. But you get the point, the gist. And also, providing spiritual knowledge and wisdom. So, in that sort of sense, like, I went ahead and equated, Uriel to Hermes and Thoth and all of that sort of thing. And, they're more so popular for having that role, what have you, and being like, all right, we're gifting the knowledge, the fire of God, right, you could say. And, you can kind of go ahead and speak about, like, that whole idea of, like, fire being representative of knowledge, of, like, the thing that went ahead and sparked off humanity's sort of ascension into being able to build civilization, so on and so forth, whether it's, the idea of Prometheus and that mythos, or, general, like, scientific perspective of, cavemen, were just, the cavemen, Neanderthals were just, like, frivolous beasts. They had a little bit more so agency than some of their other contemporaries at the time, like dinosaurs and the other animals, but, they were a little bit more advanced. But then when they went ahead and found out about fire, however they did, whether it's like a lightning bolt coming from the sky and putting something on fire, or whatever the case may be, and found out for themselves, then, that's when the progress really truly started to go ahead, when the ball truly started getting rolling and all of that. But yes, that is a capacity in which Uriel can go ahead and assist anyone with who wishes to interface with them. Along with that, empowering other magical or spiritual acts or works. Something that I have kind of gone ahead and found is, like, Uriel happens to be very good at when you are doing something else. Like, say, for example, Archangel Raphael, healing, right? And going ahead and, like, say, I don't know, for this particular purpose, you kind of got a cramp in your leg or something, right? And, you're calling upon Archangel Raphael for assistance, and that shouldn't be, like, a major, like, thing, right? Like, Raphael should be able to take care of themselves, but let's say for whatever reason, right? Whether it's on the physical level, or mental body, emotional body, spiritual body, astral body, all different layers. There's some extra stuff that needs to be addressed. Well, you can go ahead and call upon Archangel Uriel to go ahead and give that a boost. and provide additional oversight, you could say. Or, whatever other things you're happening to go ahead and needing assistance with. And also, generating abundance within oneself. So in this sort of manner, like going ahead and bring that energy within you of abundance, and then being like, all right, you know what? I can go ahead and, I will grow. You can kind of see it as, getting the solar energy, to talk about the title of, the fire of God or son of God, right? Think of yourself as a tree, right? And needing that abundance to grow, whether it's, in terms of, hey, look, you're not doing the best emotionally or mentally, and you can grow as an individual and grow in that sort of sense, spiritually, whatever manners and means of self-development and becoming a better version of yourself. Yes, Uriel can assist in that regard, and everything that comes along with it as well, being byproducts. And yes, so pretty much I think that serves as, a good, collection of things that you can go ahead and, for those interested to working with Uriel, can go ahead and start off, calling upon them for. And then whatever you happen to find yourselves, right, on, whatever sources you have, and or just, I would actually recommend asking Uriel themselves through whatever means of communication, whether it's intuitively or using divinatory tools, or, whatever you come across or experience, that you interface with Uriel to find out what they would prefer you to go ahead and be like, hey, look, I'm here for you, and this is how I can best help you. Or, if you honestly want to look at it more so from a companionship and from a partnership perspective, as opposed to you just, oh, hey, look, I'm just going to use this entity for my own gains and means, and actually trying to say, let's work towards our mutual benefit, just going ahead and developing that partnership and getting their insights and their perspective, so on and so forth, and engaging in that symbiotic back and forth, as opposed to just being like, oh, they're just going to go ahead and serve me and and who cares what they want or anything like that. And also, I just wanted to kind of end on the caveats that not just for Uriel, but for any entity, whether it be an archangel or, a demon or a god or a goddess or a elemental spirit or, whatever the case may be, whatever sort of thought form, whatever sort of being, what have you, that even though I did provide a list of things that they can, Uriel can go ahead and assist you with, any being can go ahead and accomplish whatever task it is that you go ahead and ask, for assistance or additional push on with. The difference between each of them will be their own motives and or incentives, personally, because they all have their own personas, their own particular character, and all of that, their own intents, as well as how to go about accomplishing these tasks. On an additional note, when it comes to trying to bring about Uriel, whether it's by means of magic or praying or whatever sort of manners and means that you prefer, you're going to want to go ahead, and this is a recommendation. It's not necessarily absolutely something that is required, but a personal recommendation of mine, that you go ahead and you intone the name of Uriel. Now, when doing so, right, what is intonation? That means you emphasize each syllable of that particular name of the entity and or aspect, or, whatever it is that you're trying to bring about, trying to call upon. So when it comes to Uriel, you go ahead and, as so, pronounce each syllable distinctly. Kind of like how monks go ahead and chant, say Om, or any other sort of mantras, you go ahead and you do so with the name Uriel or any other entity in this case. So, with that being said, when it comes to Uriel, you would go ahead and be like, Uriel, and go ahead and do that as many times as you deem necessary for your particular means and method. For me personally, I usually go with about 3. That seems to be sufficient enough. However, for whatever it is that you're particularly doing, you can go ahead and add or subtract even however many times of intonation it is you may want to go ahead and do for the particular purpose of calling upon, summoning, interacting with Archangel Uriel themselves. So yes, I think that pretty much goes down and covers what I wanted to address with this. And to kind of wrap it all up, I wanted to just once again shout out Archangel Uriel, and I wanted to go ahead and record this and all of that as a means of showing appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness for their assistance within my own life, within the lives of those who are more so tapped in within my friend group, and all of that, for assisting with, whatever it may be, for, anybody that I happen to know who is not necessarily tapped in, but I'm doing so on behalf of, for anyone out there who, has been benefited by Archangel Uriel, what have you. This is me trying to show gratitude and thankfulness and appreciation for what it is that you have done thus far, what it is you currently are in the midst of doing, and what you shall do, moving on to the future. And once again, the partnership, the collaboration, the companionship. Yes, I very much appreciate you, Archangel Uriel. So, with that being said, this is Twisted with Opener Sorcery, and stay frosty, niggas. Peace.